Hello everybody, how are you doing? This is Rob of Rule of Two Review. Welcome back to the channel. And before I jump into today's gaming Nintendo related topic, I did want to give you guys a little bit of an update. It's actually a pretty big update. If you follow me on Twitter, you probably saw me post about this yesterday. That update is that I'm actually going to be moving. And I mean, I'm moving really soon. If everything goes according to plan, I'm going to be moving this weekend, probably Saturday and Sunday, mostly on Sunday. And that is like, what, 4 days from now? 3-4 days from right now. It's really exciting. You know, moving sucks because the activity and the process of moving your life from one place to another is the worst way to spend your time. It's the worst activity to do. But the end result is always really great, right? So, you know, we've been renting just a small little one-level house here for a while, but we actually just purchased a house. So we're moving into a much bigger, much nicer place this weekend. So it's very exciting. My fiance and I are like over the moon. We're overjoyed. We can't wait to get this thing going. But that also means that I'm going to be leaving this room, which is really crazy. I kind of had this epiphany yesterday, which is why I tweeted about it, that I've been in this room, this house in this room, for 4 years, but almost 4.5 years, I think, since 2016. And it's really crazy to think that we're finally going to be leaving. I'm no longer going to be in this room. You know, this room has been my office for work. It's also our game and our movie room. And of course, it's been my YouTube room and my YouTube workspace for a long time. You know, when I first started the channel, I was living in Denver before I even put my face on camera. So I had a couple of different places I started filming myself in Denver when I was living alone in a pretty big house. And then I moved to an apartment out here on the West Coast, and I was in that space for less than a year. And then we moved here, and this has been the space for Rule of Two Review for coming up on 4.5 years. But that's coming to an end, and so I wanted to mention it because barring some crazy megaton announcement tomorrow or Saturday, this is probably going to be the last video that I make in this room. I mean, this crept up on me so fast, I wasn't prepared for the fact that my YouTube space was going to be changing and that what you guys saw on camera was also going to be changing. And I was like, I gotta let everybody know that suddenly I'm just not going to be in this room anymore. So, like I said, most likely the next time you see me, I'm probably going to be in a different room, and we'll touch on that stuff at that time. So that's the update. I'm not going to waste any more time. We'll talk about the good stuff, the Nintendo and the Pokemon stuff, but I wanted to give you guys that small update. Now, with that house cleaning out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about the actual news, the actual gaming and Nintendo stuff that we're here to discuss. And that is that, obviously, everyone in the world already knows this. Yesterday, there was a Pokemon presentation that happened. And in that presentation, the kind of big announcement and the big thing that people took away from it was the reveal of a brand new Pokemon Snap game, which is a huge deal. And as I discussed with you guys, most of you who know me, you already know I'm not really a Pokemon fan. But one thing I do know is that Pokemon Snap, the original game on the Nintendo 64, is a huge deal. This game is very, very popular. I've known for the last 20 years since that game came out that Pokemon fans, loved Pokemon Snap. And so to have a new one announced here in the age of the Switch is definitely a big deal. And people, for the most part, Pokemon fans and Nintendo fans, seem extremely excited. Now, like I said, it's been 20 years, 2 full decades since Pokemon Snap came out on the Nintendo 64. So I'm really happy to see Pokemon fans and fans of the original Pokemon Snap have this new game to play. One of the conversations I've seen around it, it's very interesting, reminding you guys I'm an outsider looking in when it comes to the Pokemon thing, right? I've been noticing how people have been talking about the graphics and the visuals to the game, because the game looks, to be fair, pretty darn good. Like, it's not the most graphically insane game we can play, right? I mean, I'm recording this the day before The Last of Us Part 2 comes out. That's like the next level graphics kind of situation. But as far as like Pokemon games go and the Nintendo art style and visual style that they choose, and also with what Pokemon Sword and Shield look like, the visuals to Pokemon Snap, the Switch version, this sequel here, are really, really impressive. I mean, even I was watching it and I was like, dude, this looks really good. You know, I played Pokemon Shield. I gave the game a shot, right? And so I saw what those visuals looked like. I've seen plenty of footage of all the DS and 3DS games over the years, and even the old school Game Boy games. And, you know, so I had like a reference for what those games typically look like. And seeing the new stuff, the Pokemon Snap stuff, I was like, man, they went to the next level. This actually looks really, really good. And a lot of people have been talking about that. They're happy the game looks so good, but they're also... This happens so often with Pokemon, you guys. I don't know what to say, man. They're very much riding the Pokemon company and saying, like, how can you make so many games that look so bad? Like, look at what you're capable of. Here's Pokemon Snap. Why can't you make other games look this good? And I think that the response to that has been, the way I see it, it's a twofold response. One is an open world, big RPG adventure where you have a lot of freedom, the way you move about and the interactions you can come into contact with, is very different than a game that, as far as I know, is just on rails, right? Isn't the Pokemon Snap thing is that you're just on rails like in a train or something, or a car, and it's moving around and you're just taking pictures of Pikachu and stuff. So it's an on-rails controlled environment adventure. So the argument could be made that, of course it's going to look better because the developers have more freedom to make the game look better because you're not going to be running around finding things and looking at things that we didn't intend for you to do, which is different than something like a Pokemon Sword and Shield. And that's true. Like, it's just very true. However, I would also argue that developing a game like what Pokemon's Sword and Shield is on the Nintendo Switch in 2019, I still think it's pretty fair for fans of that franchise, again, which I am not. But I think it's fair of fans for that franchise to ask for something a little bit more modern. Let's be real. What Pokemon Sword and Shield is, even the size of it, the length of the adventure, everything going on, it's not like that game can't be made to look better, right? You've got Breath of the Wild, The Witcher 3, Skyrim, Doom, Mario Odyssey, these games that are huge games where you're running around big worlds doing all sorts of things that look 10 times better than Pokemon Sword and Shield did. So with Pokemon Sword and Shield, I think it was definitely an element where they were saving money by using a slightly modified version of the 3DS engine, and that's what they did. They called it good. I don't want to say that they were lazy. I don't want to use that term because I don't want to ignite any Pokemon rage. I'm not invested enough to ignite that rage. I don't have a strong opinion about it. I have just an objective level opinion, I guess. And that would just be that I think that they chose something that was cost effective. I don't want to say lazy. We'll say that they were being cost effective. Anywho, just Pokemon Snap wasn't even what I wanted to talk about in this video. I kind of wanted to talk about how Nintendo has been treating the past couple of weeks, or maybe even couple of months, in a situation where they haven't been giving us Nintendo Directs. There was no E3. They decided not to show their E3 Nintendo Direct. They announced Paper Mario, on Twitter a couple months ago or whatever. I wanted to talk about what they've been doing and how Pokemon Snap fits into that and a couple of other things, because it does certainly seem like, we're in a situation where Sony just had a great reveal of the PlayStation 5. They had a bunch of great games that they talked about. Microsoft hasn't yet to show us a lot of great games, but we do still know that their new console is coming. And Nintendo, in the weirdness that is 2020 with the health situation and how the industry has been affected, they've been way more mum's the word, right? They're keeping whatever they're doing way closer to their chest at this point. And they seem to be, so far, allowing Sony and Microsoft to just sort of have the runway that they need from now until the end of the year when they launch their consoles, and to have a potentially uncontested space to launch these consoles and to get new games out and stuff, and kind of suck up all of the media attention, right? They've been very, very quiet. The biggest thing they've done, outside of release Animal Crossing, okay, they released a huge game. Outside of that, the biggest thing they've done was announced a new Paper Mario game on Twitter. Now, since then, the only other thing we've seen them do is, reveal Pokemon Snap, which again is a very, very huge deal. It's not a game that excites me, but it's going to be a very popular game, and it's going to probably make them a lot of money. So that's a pretty big feather in their cap. And then also they revealed this jump rope challenge thing on Twitter, right? Which is something that some of their developers made while working from home because there's not a lot of stuff to be doing right now, apparently. And so they made this extra little kind of small, fun exercise game just as like an experiment, right? And so they released that game. And here's the thing, that couldn't be less interesting to me if it tried, right? Like, games like Jump Rope Challenge, or even the 51 game board game collection, whatever, classic, I don't even know what that thing's called. Clubhouse games, that's what it is. Sorry, 51 Clubhouse games. Those kinds of experiences, the jump rope and the 51 Clubhouse stuff, not for me. They don't get me excited. I appreciate that they're Nintendo first-party games. Sure, that's neat. And they're probably good for what they're trying to be. But what they're trying to be are not things that Rob wants to play or spend my money on. I have no interest in playing checkers and backgammon on my Nintendo Switch when I'm otherwise been stuck playing Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition while also waiting for The Last of Us Part 2. Those are games that captures Rob's attention, okay? Jump Rope Challenge and 51 board games does nothing for me. It does not do anything for me. And so I'm not trying to diss those games, and I'm not saying if you like them that you're wrong. I am not saying that. I'm just saying these games are not for me. Paper Mario had me very excited. The 51 Clubhouse doesn't. Jump Rope doesn't. Pokemon Snap doesn't. But these are the things that we're seeing Nintendo do in 2020, right? So that's just the reality of what we're seeing. Nintendo seems to be very comfortable, as I've been theorizing for most of 2020. I've been theorizing this. You guys have heard me. Nintendo seems to be very comfortable just kind of letting the industry go on really without much of a dent from Nintendo. They're just kind of letting it go, you know? Sony, you do your thing. Microsoft, you do your thing. Here's a Pokemon game. Here's a Paper Mario, a pretty big deal. And here's a little jump rope thing. Here's a bunch of board games we threw into a collection. That's the stuff we're focused on right now as far as 2020 goes. You don't need Nintendo Directs. You don't need new games. You guys can wait. And, you know, yes, that makes me sad in several ways that I've mentioned in the past. But also, counterpoint to that, I understand. I'm not a demanding, entitled person. While it makes me sad and depressed and maybe even a little frustrated that Nintendo isn't doing a lot right now, it doesn't make me angry, and I can also still understand it and say, well, that's just what 2020 is. Nintendo seems to be deciding, this is the case right now, could change in the future, but right now, it seems to be that Nintendo is deciding to not play hardball. They want to just release a couple of small little things here and there. They're not worried about really getting buzz. They're not trying to make headlines, and they're not trying to release really big games, at least right now. Now, will this change in the coming weeks or months? Possibly. In fact, it might even be pretty likely that at some point Nintendo shows us another huge game. Maybe they confirm Breath of the Wild 2 is this year. Maybe they say, hey, here's Bayonetta 3, it's got a date, and it's November 2020. You know, I've been theorizing a Metroid game, you know. I was theorizing it before 2020 got weird. Then Paper Mario gave us the tease, and as I told you, I believe that was teasing a game. So these are things that could still happen and fill out 2020 for sure. But right now, they seem to be very content taking that back seat and just kind of sprinkling a couple of small little things out there for us to enjoy. You know, Paper Mario comes out in a month. It's actually like just under a month Paper Mario comes out. Very excited. I'm going to be playing that. It's the day after my birthday. I can't wait. Pokemon Snap. Huge game that I think is very much breathing some new life into Nintendo's lineup right now because we have been waiting for big games. That comes out, well, and here's the thing though. I didn't even think about this. Pokemon Snap, as far as I've seen, doesn't even have a release date. So maybe it's a 2021 title. However, I will say I don't expect that. That reveal, that game, everything about it to me feels like it's one of the few major titles they're trying to drop in 2020. So I know they didn't give us a date, and anything is possible, but I would tell you guys to expect it to be a 2020 title. I think it's probably going to come out like August, September time, something like that. Of course, I didn't even think about this. No More Heroes 3 is still the game I'm personally waiting for, so maybe that could fill out the year. So who knows? Right now, Nintendo, they're just being weird. They're using Twitter to just give us announcements of weird spin-off or small games here and there. This weird Kingdom Hearts spin-off game was just announced by Square. Stuff like that. And if it's going to change, I don't know. You know, it would be nice to see No More Heroes 3 and Bayonetta 3 get announced and reconfirmed for this year and actually get dates for sometime in the coming months. We would like to see that stuff. But Nintendo's very hard to predict right now, so who knows. Anyway, these are my thoughts here in what I think is going to be my last video in this room. I almost got a little sentimental and choked up saying that, really thinking like, is this the last time I'm going to be here with these posters on this wall? And how funny is it that most of the conversations about Pokemon, which is a franchise I don't even really care for, But, you know, that's the news going on. It's a pretty big deal. I think that it potentially speaks to some of how Nintendo's treating 2020 and their continued silence, their continued slowness. If this is a sign that they're going to open up and start showing us more games or not. You know, Paper Mario might have been the beginning of a trend. We get Paper Mario, now we have Pokemon Snap. Maybe next month we get an announcement of another big game. Or like I said, a date for No More Heroes or Bayonetta, something like that. Anything is possible. So, I don't know, you've heard my thoughts and opinions. You know, what do you guys think? Are you excited for Pokemon Snap? Are you not? What do you think Nintendo's doing with this weird year? Continually staying so silent for the most part. I definitely want to hear your thoughts. And of course, you know, I get to say goodbye to this room that I'm in here. You know, no more of this. We're going to be in a new place next time. So, yeah, with that, this video is a wrap. Thanks, of course, as always, for tuning in, guys. This is Rob of Rule of 2 Review, and I will catch you next time in another video in another room. Bye-bye.